Howdy everybody, this is Omar, your Audio Amigo, here today with another Audio Amigo Addendum. Today we're looking at the refreshed version of the CVJ NightElf, this time with 100% less waifu on the shells. So this is what I'm going to be calling the NightElf Damascus edition, since it's clear they were going for sort of a Damascus steel thing on the shells. They're selling this alongside the existing waifu version for the exact same price, which is $30. CVJ says there are no construction or tuning differences, just the cable and the faceplates, so this should honestly be a pretty quick one. Quick disclaimer before we get started. While I purchased my original NightElf myself, CVJ sent me the new version for free. I am not being paid for this review, but because I could technically turn around and sell this for money if I wanted to, I have activated the paid promotion feature here on YouTube. I do these disclaimers because I believe in full transparency when there is potential bias besides my own personal tastes at play. Thank you very much to CVJ for sending this set out, and thanks to all of you for your continued support. We'll go ahead and start with the box contents. The box, as you can see, for the new version is identical to the original box, but there's some changes on the inside. The included ear tips are the same, but the included carry case is different. The old screw top case, which I thought was a little bit rough looking, is now gone, as is the included scent sachet, and has been replaced with this sort of squeeze top case, very similar to the one that comes on the Yukimi and the Awful Performer 5. I do also prefer the branding and etching on this new case, as it pops a whole lot more than on the old one. It's also easier to get open and close, and it doesn't have that sort of metal thread sound on it. The other change that they have made is in the cable. As you can see, this is a sort of darker colored cloth cable compared to the rubber silvery one on the original, but we're going to talk about that here in a second. So let's make this less confusing by putting these where they belong. The cable. The cable, since it's one of the only differences here, wanted to give it a good close look. Something I neglected to mention in my original review is I said that these looked like modular connectors, but they weren't. I just wasn't pulling hard enough. Apparently, if you just, there we go. These are modular, and they're using the same 5-pin modular style that we saw on the Yukimi. They just don't include any connectors in the packaging. So that's something that I missed on the original video. Happy to clear that up. In fact, both of these are the exact same modular termination, and you could swap them if you wanted to, and I believe CVJ will sell the terminations separately. I just haven't seen them myself. So this here is a cloth covered cable. As you can see, it's got these little blue and purple accents on it. The Y split is basically the same, just a different color, as are the connectors are also identical. The cloth sheath feels, in my opinion, a bit nicer in the hands than the sort of rubbery one on the old cable. What makes me not prefer this cable, even though the coloring is very subtle on it, and I think it looks actually quite nice, is that it is quite microphonic, especially if you're wearing like a collared shirt. The ridges, see if I can get this close enough, there you go. The ridges on the fabric here pick up a lot of noise, and it's transmitted straight to the shells themselves. So you will pick up quite a lot of microphonics with this cable compared to the original one. This one, in my opinion, looks better, but it also sounds worse in terms of microphonics than the original. Which cable I prefer? Like I said, for the pure sake of no microphonics, I prefer the older one, but if it's just for looks, I'd take the newer one. So let's talk about the design and build quality. Honestly, everything I said in my original NightElf review holds true, except what I was saying about the durability of the sort of paint job on the sticker here, because as you can see here, it's gone. Yeah, these shells are essentially identical. They're the same size, the same shape. They have the same vent holes on them. They're using the same QDC connector. The only difference, as you can see, is the paint job / sticker job they put on the shells. This one should be more durable long term, but the Damascus look is a bit subtle. I don't think it's that prominent, especially from certain angles, whereas the NightElf is, well, the NightElf. In terms of specifications, these are identical in every way. There's no differences whatsoever. I'm not even going to bother putting up the specification screen. And I'm just going to go on straight to the audio evaluation, or at least I would, where I would normally talk about the audio differences. CVJ said there were no tuning changes, and I'm going to post up my graph here, and I agree. This split here in the sort of upper mids can be explained by just manufacturer variance. It is 3.5 dB, and it is noticeable between these two versions. The Damascus version is just that tiny bit brighter than my waifu version, and honestly, that's the only audible sound difference. I personally notice it with some vocal harmonics, but mostly cymbal harmonics. The entire rest of the sound is the same. That can be, like I said, explained with manufacturer variants. I don't think all the Damascus versions will be brighter tuned than the waifu versions. In terms of, technicalities and stereo separation and soundstage, these are identical drivers in identical shells with identical venting and dampening. And since the tunings are largely similar, they're identical, nothing really to report here. Exactly the same is true for stereo separation and soundstage. Everything I said in my original review holds true. There's really no need for me to compare these two with each other. Like I said, since they're essentially identical, they have the same strengths and weaknesses I mentioned in my previous review. The NightElf is essentially a Tangzu Warner with a punchier mid bass and a lack of sub bass rumble, and the Damascus will have that tiny little bit of extra treble sparkle. But again, it's only my Damascus version that has that. Even with the upgraded carry puck and the fact that the cable is modular, which I didn't take into consideration in my original review, I still feel like at $30 this set is not a better value than the Warner, because it's 20 or less depending on where you find it. And yeah, you get this case, but in terms of sound, the Warner I think is a bit more refined than this, especially in that sub bass. So since the addition of the modular cable and the nicer case didn't change my opinions on the set in terms of value, its placement on my ranking list isn't going to change either. It's going to remain ranked good. What does change is my original recommendation. So in my original video, I said that if you personally really vibed with this waifu aesthetic, that this would be a decent choice if you had to have these faceplates. You would have to be willing to baby the shells, put a coating on them to protect them, tweak the sound with EQ, and you could make these work for yourself if you absolutely had to have this faceplate design. Without the waifu on the shells, however, I feel like the people who would have bought the waifu for the purely decorative purposes are just going to move on and find another set. This Damascus pattern just doesn't have the same polarizing appeal, I'm going to say, that the waifu set had. It's just sort of kind of there. It's a, slightly glossier black pattern on top of a slightly less glossy black surface. People are going to see these and be like, okay, yeah, it's a kind of Damascus-ish black plastic pattern. How does it sound? Which, it's fine. The Warner I still think is a bit better for a bit cheaper. Whereas people will look at this set and half of them are going to go, get that waifu off my faceplate. Why do you have to put that on there? And the other half are going to go, man, she's cute. I'm going to get these just for her. So if you want the waifu, get the waifu version. If you want the NightElf for the sound, take your pick. This cable's microphonic. This cable's better, but you have to be willing to wear this out in public, which you either will or you won't. And if you don't, well, the Damascus version is here. That's going to do it for this one. Super quick, not a lot of differences. Don't want to take up too much of your time. If you're watching this, I'm going to say this again. Currently away visiting family, attending CanJam Dallas. I apologize if I don't respond to your comments right away. Thank you for tuning in to what ended up being a very quick and simple addendum video. I really appreciate the support. That's going to do it for me for now. I appreciate everything you guys have done for me. Thank you all so much for watching. This has been Omar with Audio Amigo Reviews, and I will catch you all next time.